The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to The John Lebang Show.
Greetings, Earthlings. Thank you for joining me for another hour. Glad to be back with you as I took last week off to do some work around the homestead, and well, as per usual, when I do try to improve myself a little bit, I end up with a bigger problem on my hand, and that's what happened this week. We won't get into it, but needless to say, the banger has had another rough week. Even though I was off last week on somewhat of a vacation, I ended up being more behind than I was before the vacation. So, you know, sometimes it gets frustrating when you're trying to improve yourself and these things happen. But we have plenty to talk about, including, I know, the hot topic, Bill Clinton being linked to Jeffrey Epstein, or Epstein, or however you want to pronounce it. Secret G. Maxwell documents have come out linking the Willie Slick himself to Mr. Epstein going to Orgy Island. But this isn't the first Democrat or the first high-profile person linked to the Epstein cabal. This sex organization that he ran. And with the arrest of Maxwell, apparently things are coming to light that may shed some much needed illumination on everything. But if you're a person like me who is always skeptical of the narrative, why did they finally get around to arresting her now? They found her right here in the States. They thought she was gone somewhere, but no. She was somewhere in the States. All this time. And then we have a whole bunch of other things. You've heard about the supposed asteroid stuff coming in September. We have the election coming up. You're hearing Trump is down in the polls, but do you, as average Americans, believe any of the polls? Because as we saw with the 2016 election, the polls were totally wrong. They weren't even close. It was almost a complete landslide, at least electorally, for Donald Trump. Even though the polls continually said Hillary was going to win, Hillary was going to win, Hillary was going to win. And I know if you're a Democrat the last 3 years or 3.5 years, you've been pouting and moaning and crying and having temper tantrums. I mean, they're over the top these days. But you've had these tantrums for the past 3.5 years because you thought the election was stolen from you. The Democrats and the FBI and the Department of Justice all colluded together to bring you a Russian hit piece that was nothing more than a pile of poop, a hunk of garbage, and a bunch of sheets they called a document. And they ended up, as we see with the Mueller report and the subsequent trials and all that there was actually nothing, and including the impeachment, but that there was actually nothing behind the Steele dossier. it was a bunch of fabricated nonsense. Of course, if you're a Democrat, you don't believe that. You were told, you were fed information to make you believe that the narrative was one way, and when it didn't turn out to be that way, then you were upset about it. And you thought the whole thing was a sham. Well, it was. But it was a sham on the dossier side of things and the FBI side of things. And we're starting to see, and I don't think it's going to be of any consequence now, before, or after the election, but we're starting to see little things trickle out from the Durham report or things associated with the Durham report. That's proving on many levels that there was a conspiracy to affect the last election, but not on behalf of Donald Trump. In fact, the Russian tapping into our elections or trying to affect our elections, however you want to put it, has been pretty much shown to be the Obama administration's fault for telling their own agents to stand down when this information of Russian meddling was occurring in the election. And the more and more we look back, the more and more we decipher and sort through, we realize that not only was the 2016 election and the polls and everything about it one giant, massive propaganda piece to, and it's pretty simple because we've seen it grow exponentially since the election of Donald Trump. And it was this move against what most of the people out there would consider the average right-wing voter. The entire election was supposed to go against them, and for some reason, somehow the silent majority came through and elected Donald Trump. Now, there are many in the alternative media that consider Donald Trump a operative of the left. And we've even seen people linking Donald Trump to the Jeffrey Epstein situation. And maybe he was. And if he was, and if he was involved with all that, I hope he goes down just like Bill Clinton goes down, or we're hoping he goes down, and all the other dirtbags that went along with that entire operation. But the interesting thing is when Donald Trump was associated with Epstein, because there are pictures of it, he was much younger. I believe he was a Democrat at the time. And he switched over at some point and took over the Republican Party, like we told you, after the 2012 election. We told you that the Republican Party was ripe for a new group to take it over, a new mindset, because they were so horrible. And it didn't take long, these Republicans, to start gaining momentum after the election of Barack Obama. And especially after the implementation of Obamacare. Well, man, those Republicans really stood up and fought hard and got themselves reelected. It took a little time, but they got themselves reelected. And during the Obama administration, they even passed a bill that repealed Obamacare. Couldn't get it through because Obama vetoed it. But you think they would have held it back a year, because I think it was only a year before Donald Trump was elected, and then offer him the same package that passed both the House and the Senate and should have just passed with the signature of Donald Trump. But then they didn't offer that exact package for some reason. And then you had McCain, who was the Democrat in sheep's clothing, come out at last minute and hold that whole thing up and ruin it. He then summarily dies soon after that. But the damage was done. That's another thing. We probably should take it upon ourselves to vote these lifetime politicians out of there. But we continue to vote for the name. It happens here in Michigan. It happens all over. We vote for the name we know versus the guy we don't know. That's what's going to happen in this election. In fact, they've guaranteed it on both sides of the aisle. You've got the Trumpster, who the Republicans, for the most part, are going to vote for him. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? On the Democrats, who could you pick your safer pick to get the non-radicals to vote for a Democrat? Because the average Democrat, that is, isn't going to think about how scary and how perverted the Creeper Joe is. No. He looks like old school Democrat. Although he's starting to preach the AOC line and the Omar line and the far left line, and he's getting behind these organizations that are, well, tearing up the country. And to a Democrat, that's okay. If their people are doing it, they're okay with what's going on. That even reminds me of a little tweet exchange I had recently with I'm assuming it's a Democrat, but I don't want to pass judgment on them. They were supporting the BLMers and the Antifas, calling them protesters, and I jumped in and said they can't be protesters because they're not following First Amendment. And, well, this guy, yes, they're following the First Amendment, and I had to, post the First Amendment for him. I said, hey, this is what you're talking about, right? It says, peaceably protest your government for grievances. You know what that means, folks. See, once I post that, I didn't hear another word back from that guy. Because that means, folks, that you can't, if you're peacefully protesting your grievances against your government, you can't go out there and clog up the streets. You can't go and run through neighborhoods, break down barriers, rip down gates, tear down monuments. None of those things are protected under that First Amendment. What you do have the right is to go to the government building that's related to the problem you have a grievance with, and you go protest there. That means those people who were angry that George Floyd was killed in Minnesota should have been protesting in Minnesota, at the police department, at City Hall. But for some reason it spread all over the country. Places that never or had no public records of what they were accusing the police department in that city of. I know we had one near here, and I had spoken to one of those people at a local party store while they were in there getting something to drink in between their protesting, and I just asked them, what did our police department here in my city do to warrant these protests? What did the city do? They couldn't name a thing. That's because nothing happens like that here in my town, as it probably doesn't happen in a majority of cities across the nation. Yet, these brilliant people were out protesting in these cities for apparently no reason they knew of.
Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane and the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Eye-Raider convention.
You know, I just, talking about the news and what's happening, sometimes can be a little heavy to do as a talk show host. So I'm going to give it a little break right now, because later on in the second half of the show, we're going to discuss some pretty heavy stuff. This little report I've been putting together, and we're going to give you a good summation of that report in the third and fourth segments. So I thought this segment we'd discuss something a little different, although it is related to what is happening. And it's a personal mask story. I've got my first real mask story to tell you, my listeners. And as many of you know, I have to work a day job because this gig here doesn't quite pay for the expenses of life. So I've got to run that day job, and it's dealing with the public on a regular basis. So earlier this week, I was doing my normal routine at work, helping customers get their products, what they need, help them, and get them out of the store. Well, I had this one genius lady coming in, obviously someone who is heavily influenced by the mainstream malpractice media. The first thing she says to me as I say, "Hello, how may I help you today?" is, "You know, that mask you're wearing doesn't protect me, it protects you." That's exactly what she said. First words out of her mouth. And of course, I was a little shocked by this reply to, "Hello, how may I help you?" Usually you tell me what you came for to the store. I help you get it. I take your payment, and I help you leave. Well, this intelligent woman of malpractice media influence decides to then start berating me because I wear an N95 mask. You know those masks that, well, the experts have been telling you are the bare minimum you need to protect yourself against the boogie woogie virus. You need this N95 mask, and you know, anyone out there who have tried to acquire these over the past few months have found it virtually impossible to do so. I was lucky enough to have a box that I'd purchased months and months before this whole pandemic thing, because they're really good for when you work in the attic and you want to protect yourself against the fiberglass that in the insulation. So she continues to accost me, literally, to the point where I was like, "Ma'am, how can I help you today?" Because you can only say so much to the person while you're at your job, because of the fact that, well, you don't want to endanger your job by saying, "Listen, you stupid ass lady, why don't you get off the freaking mask and tell me why the frick you're here? What do you want?" No, she kept continuing, explaining to me how she read in an article that my mask, the N95, protects me but not her. Again and again and again. This went on for, 15 or 20 minutes. Finally, after her accosting me for my good mask as opposed to the crappy mask she has to wear because, well, she can't find N95 masks. And apparently, according to her, I'm supposed to protect her. I don't know if she wanted me to give her my mask. I was almost going to ask her, would you like to have my mask so you will shut the frick up? So I actually, at one point, after I'd helped her with her product and everything, and she still continued to accost me, I'd handed her off to a coworker who had a mask that wasn't only protecting the coworker. It was a worthless mask that we're being required to wear by the state. That's what's going on here in my state is we're required to wear masks, and I'm required to wear masks at work all day. Unlike the customers who come in, put the mask on after they enter the store for the most part. They don't have the mask on before they enter. They walk in, breathe their germs all over the store as they're putting on their masks. And I'm of the opinion, and we've talked about it before, you can wear a mask if you want. You don't wear a mask, that's what you want as well. Whatever you want. Because you're supposed to be taking care of yourself. So if you don't think the boogie woogie virus is a threat, then you don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to. I'm good with that. What I'm not good with is you coming into a store and telling me the what fors when you, because she again is telling me, I don't know, for the umpteenth time, that my mask protects me and not her. And I wanted so hard to say, ma'am, if you were so worried about the virus, why did you come to the store in the first place? Why are you going out in public if you are so worried that your mask isn't going to protect you and you're going to accost somebody who's wearing an actual mask that can protect them? And as she left, she had to reiterate time and time again, I'm not trying to tell you anything, but I'm telling you that your mask is protecting you. What's your point, lady? What's your point? That's what I wanted to scream at her at this point. Because I had gone off to do stock in a different part of the store. And on her way out, she found her way over to me to give me her last word on the subject. As if I wanted to be audience to her last word. But she was going to tell me. And again, I'm expressing to you, my listeners, and if she might be tuning in, which I doubt because I think she's well programmed by the malpractice media and probably listens to CNN or MSNBC or one of those malpractice media outlets. But I wanted to just shake her and say, lady, you're the one with the problem. If you're so worried about catching the virus, then why are you out in public? And what's worse is that you're standing less than your social distancing away from me to give me the what fors on why my mask or why I shouldn't be wearing my mask because it protects me. Do you want me to get sick because you, who is traipsing all over the city, obviously from store to store, without a care in the world as long as everybody else is protecting you from them? That's what this lady thinks we need to do, is protect her from all of us. All of us are her subjects, and we must think of her and her protection. That's not how this freedom thing works, lady, and I know you're probably not one of those people who understands that freedom thing. And I'm wearing the mask, the better one, because I could be wearing the cheapo masks at work. But if I'm going to have to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask, because I don't want to wear a mask at work. Because wearing that for 9 to 10 hours a day without break gets to be extremely annoying. It does make it difficult to perform heavy lifting tasks, which I have to do. Climbing, I have to do that at my job. And after a whole day of this, that I have to wear a mask because I'm told I can't come to work unless I'm wearing one, so I wear one that will actually protect me. And this is from the people who aren't wearing the masks and the people who come in and are wearing the masks. I'm protecting me. Why? Why would I protect me? Well, because that's my job. Lady, if you want your protection preserved, it's up to you to do that. Which means if it bothers you that people are going to the store with really good masks or without masks at all, because I'm sure if one of our customers showed up that wasn't wearing a mask, she would give that person the what for as well. Because this lady was a know-it-all. She was what a lot of people are calling Karens. I just called her a bitch. Apparently you can't do that these days, but whatever. And I did my very best, ladies and gentlemen, not to wring her neck. Because I wanted to. I sat there and took the accosting and only a couple times, because I couldn't take it anymore, gave her a little bit back, but only to the point where I knew I could get to that line without crossing it. And I wanted to cross it, and I wanted to say, lady, get the frick out of my store. If you're so scared, get out. And this is a message to anybody who's like that. If you are so worried about catching the virus, ladies and gentlemen, when you go out to a store, here's the perfect solution. Don't go to the store. Don't go out shopping. I know you're bored, but if you're more worried about being sick than you are about being bored, then shut up when you go out in public and deal with it. But that's where we're at. And I'm sure this is happening all over the country, and I've seen it. And this is the reason why this country is in great, great peril, because people like this are the people that are the ones that are going to help force the government on you. Whatever the government rules are, these are the people that'll tell on you. These are the people that'll give you the what fors when they don't know what for whatever. We're going to take a quick timeout, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. Bring your tinfoil hats, because on the other side of this, we're going to cover, well, a little theory craft around this entire COVID situation, all the stuff we've been talking about with the presidential seal and everything we've covered. We've got somewhat of a summation, somewhat of a direction on why this all might be happening and who might be the beneficiaries of it. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Don't move a muscle.
The John LeBang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes!
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is your one-stop shop for tuxedos and men's quality suits. We go the extra mile to make sure your tux or suit is the perfect fit. Our huge selection is second to none in the state.
Looking good.
Outstanding customer service.
And we're located on Dix Toledo in Southgate. Call today, 734-285-3253.
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is the place to be.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to Jim's Tuxedos and Menswear.
You know I had to come to the best.
That's right.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John LeBang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John LeBang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John LeBang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
All right, folks. As you can see, I put my glasses on because I'm going to have to do some reading here. I haven't been having the best visual help with my poor little eyes lately. They've decided in my advanced age to begin to be weaker, and I don't see as well as I should for what I think I should. So I'm going to have to use the aid of these glasses to get me through, and that's okay. Go ahead and make fun of me. And speaking, before we get into this, the last video I did on YouTube, which was, I believe, the last show we had here, or part of the last show we had here, I had people commenting, many negatively, on the hat I was wearing and the sunglasses I was wearing in that video. Now, there's some people who like those things, but obviously there are people who think that's a big deal and they should tell me that you shouldn't wear a hat in the house or inside or wherever you're wearing a hat. And why are you wearing glasses? Are you on drugs or something? Why don't you guys listen to the content instead of worrying about that dumb stuff? Now, folks, if you head on over to my website, we've got an article called Ritual 21. It's something I've put together for this show. You'll be able to get a more narrowed down video independently of the show sometime a day or so after the broadcast of this show, and you'll be able to catch that on my YouTube channel. And it'll give you all the visuals and all the graphics that you need. But so you can follow along here, go to the website, www.jlebang.com. It's right there at the top, called Ritual 21. Feel free to click that so you can follow along. And now that you're following along, or I hope that you're going there, I can get started and you'll catch up as we go. But I hope you brought your tinfoil hats, because we're going to get into something, what a lot of people would probably call a conspiracy theory. Although, you know, as my regular listeners would know, I like to call it theory crafting. Now, over the past several months, ladies and gentlemen, many of us have been bewildered over the unfolding events, asking ourselves, what the hell is going on? Well, a few days ago, after I was sitting on my couch with my eyes closed because it had been a long day, I was relaxing, I was chilling out, and poof, an epiphany happened. This little idea, this little light sparked in my brain, and it was something that had been bugging me for a few days. You see, the Donald decided to return to his daily briefings after discontinuing them in April. And I was thinking, what's the point of this? Is it something just like political theater, or is it beyond that? You remember how I was covering a lot of those, a good portion, in fact, almost 2.5 months of these briefings and what was being said in those briefings, and some codes that were being projected through the briefings. And the people new to the channel, people new listening to this, you can go to the website, and even in the article that you're following along with, there are going to be links to all these to catch you up. On the first 3 days when these coronavirus briefings continued, everything was pretty much normal. The presidential flag was there, the seal was there, until day 4. And that's when things changed. You see, the seal remained because they caught on that a lot of us were paying attention to that. But very few of us were paying attention to that flag. And guess what was missing on day 4? The flag was removed. That's right, folks. And in its place was 4 U.S. flags. It was a little confusing, but I was like, okay, 4 flags, why would they do this? The following day, there were 5 flags. No presidential flag, the seal was there, but no presidential flag, but 5 American flags. The day after that, there were 6 American flags. Now, this happened on July 25th, 26th, and 27th. It's really interesting to note that July 27th, 2020, was the last day to be void of the presidential flag again, because it returned on July 28th. You had the one flag of the United States, the one presidential flag, and the presidential seal. But this, when I was sitting on that couch, is where something finally clicked. When I remembered the 2-1 code that we talked about back in April, back in May. In the 3 videos, I covered the presidential seal. And then I stumbled onto this. But July 27th, 2020, you take the 27 and that equals a 9, folks. That equals a 9. 2 and 7 equal 9. Using the 2-1 code. July, 7th month, right? 2020, 2020. 7 plus 2 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. Using the 2-1 code, we decipher that the code in July 27 is 9/11. Then, let's go to the flags using that same 2-1 code. The 4 and the 5 flags, day by day, next to each other, equal 9. The 5 flags and the 6 flags equal 11, using that 2-1 code. Now, to confirm the 2-1 code, when they went back to the presidential flag, it was July 28th, 7/28/2020. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 8 is 17, plus 2 is 19, plus 2 is 21. We just had confirmation that the 2-1 code was in play. But what is the meaning of the 2-1 code, you might ask? Now, to answer that, we need to go back to the beginning of when the 2-1 code first became operational. And that means you better strap on an extra layer of tinfoil from here on out. A few notes before we continue. For this discussion, folks, I'm using Event 201 as the starting point. By no means am I suggesting this was the initial starting point. No doubt there were a great deal of preparations taking place before this event occurred. But from this point forward, we're going to give you the basics on the background of 2-1. For more in-depth information, you'll need to expand your own personal research, and we'll provide links, videos, and charts to help you along the way. And that's all part of this article that we're working off of right now. Now, you have to consider this just below the surface level information, covering major events that have all been coded since Event 201. Now, are you ready? Let's begin. Event 201 happened in October of 2019. Now, if you've been following our coverage over the past 3 months, you'll be familiar with the 2-1 code associated with the event, as well as the number 13. For more detailed coverage, please see my article, 13 and the Mark of the Presidential Seal. Event 201 was a simulated pandemic held in October of 2019. The Gates Foundation, along with the Johns Hopkins Institute, were the brainchild of this event. From there, we move to COVID-19. Interestingly enough, the virus 2-1 code is in plain sight. This is the first example of the 2-1 code in this discussion. 13 and its opposite 31 are present in the word COVID, as you can see according to the chart. You take the 3 and the 15, which is a 6, and makes a 9. You take the D, bring the at the end, and you bring it down, and it's a 4, equaling 13. VI equals 31, and you have 31, 13. The 19 equates to AI, if you convert it to letters, interestingly enough. It's also worth noting that there are 5 letters in the word COVID, equaling the letter E. When tracking the code breaking, the virus is split into COD and VI, or code 6. What does that mean? We're still working on that. After that, the next major event, Trump declares the national emergency on March 13 over COVID-19. There's your code 13 right in the open. Soon after that, we get the CARE Act, which the president signed into law. The CARE Act, CA, C is a 3, A is a 1, there's your 31. RE, 18 and 5 equal 23. Act AC equal 1 and 3. T is 20. One letter. The code 23 is added to the bookends of 3 and 13. Using the 2-1 code, we have a leftover T, which equals 20. Some could use the single letter to denote 1 for the letter T, making the code 2-1. But it could be left over for another purpose, meaning the code isn't complete and there is more to come. There's also a code in the date. See that? March 27th, which was the day they signed the $6.2 trillion stimulus package called the CARE Act, 13 days after declaring the national emergency. At that signing, there were 13 men, 2 women, and the president, 2-1, represented there. Presidential flags had 2, and you can see that there is only one U.S. flag represented. I think we're going to take a quick break here as we run up against the time. We'll continue this on the other side. Stay tuned, folks.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back.
After this. That's guaranteed. Yes.
Absolute Skin and Body Care, located in Livonia, Michigan. If you're in need of laser hair removal, skin care, laser tattoo removal, or laser hair regrowth, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Their phone number is 248-533-0448. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Give them a call.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it. Now, as we get back into giving you a little bit more about the 2-1 code, I have a little note here. The 2-1 and 13 codes were used heavily during the COVID task force briefings. You can see all that in our article 13, The Mark of the Presidential Seal, and any of the related videos which are available on this article's page. Now let's take it a little further. The next major event we get is Operation Warp Speed. This is the code that sets it off for me. This is the code that tells me that I'm onto something here. Operation has all the code listed right there. Warp Speed has also code listed right there. Now let's talk about it. Operation Warp Speed is heavily coded. All the important numbers are represented in that title, in that name. There's not much more to say about this code. What are the odds that all the important numbers are present? We have 31, 23, 21, 9/11, and 1331 all present in this code. So what's the end game behind Operation Warp Speed? Well, it's vaccines. 9/11 is also part of this code, which was recently introduced, as I stated in the last segment. Operation Warp Speed technically is the speeding up production of a vaccine. A lot of you are just saying, okay, John, these are numbers. I don't get it. What do they actually represent? And that is a legitimate question for many of you who are asking that. So let me try to simplify this. This is not the grand overall arching. This is a simplification. Again, if you want to know more, you're going to have to do the research yourself. We can't fit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of information in 1 hour. We just can't do that. 13, according to how I'm understanding the code involved in all this, means the U.S. leadership. This is clear as it is always present with the United States and its concerns. Every time the president is involved, what the operations are, what things are happening, what dates things are beginning on. 13 has been a number that has been seen over and over and over and over. The number 23, according to how I'm understanding this, and of course I want your viewpoints out there, folks, so please feel free to chime in. An occult hidden group of people who are attempting to direct the course of mankind equals the number 23. These people are behind it, in other words. 31, well, is the perceived opposite of that 13 that has come up so often. And in this case, I believe if 13 represents the leadership of the United States, 31 represents China, or the opposite of the United States, whoever's working against the United States. But of course, this is up to debate. 21 is the event itself, as we've discussed about in Event 201. We'll get to more of that a little later as well. 9/11 means imminent, currently underway, fast approaching. You get the picture, right? Again, these are all simplifications, and in reality, it is far more convoluted than anything I am conveying to you. Now, why is 2-1 significant? And this is where we start getting into this, folks. This is why all this is happening, if I'm right. But have you looked into the sky recently, ladies and gentlemen? Maybe you've heard the news that Saturn and Jupiter will be visible next to the moon and have been for some time now. That's right. What does that have to do with anything? Well, we're going to get to that, right? You're going to say, so, John, who cares? They're just celestial objects, right? Not to the occult, not to the elite. They have meaning. Now let's look into some of the beliefs associated with these bodies in space. Saturn. Now Saturn is a slow-moving planet, sometimes called Kronos, Falcifer, and Shani by the Hindus. He, did you hear that, folks? He, not it, he is called the eldest of the gods. And in Greek mythology, he is told to devour his own children, which symbolizes that time, or Kronos, destroys the material creation. Saturn and Satan, believe it or not, they have a connection. Saturn has also an association with Satan, and this for numerous reasons. First, many authors argue that the word Satan is derived from the word Saturn. Second, Saturn is associated with the color black as well as Satan. Ancient Hebrews represented Saturn with a six-pointed star, which later became the Star of David. It also had many other esoteric meanings. The symbol is still found on Israel's flag. Many esoteric researchers affirm that the name Israel is a combination of the names of ancient pagan deities Isis, Re, and El. The ancient name of Saturn was, as mentioned before, El. It is the reason why those that were chosen by El were called elites. In fact, the word elect, elder, elevated, Elohim, temple, circle, gospel, apostle, disciple, evangelist, etc., all derive from the cult of El. This is not the same God that most Christians call God. Now let's go over to Jupiter. Jupiter, astrology-wise, Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, as we all know. And it symbolizes the strength of expansion. It is the general symbol of authority and knowledge. Science and sportsmanship are also under its reign. Jupiter is the supreme deity of Rome, Lord of light and the ruler of the daytime. Jupiter was considered the head of the Roman pantheon. Brihaspati, or Jupiter, the teacher of the gods in Indian mythology, is the verdict sage who counsels God. This is similar to the Western mythology claiming Jupiter to be the king of gods. He is the god of incantation and ritual. Doesn't sound like that Christian God now, does it? And he is shown sometimes on a white elephant. Now let's head over to the moon. To modern pagans and witches, the moon goddess is the most commonly known in her aspects as derived from the Greeks and Romans. To the Greeks, she was the goddess Selene, and later Artemis. To the Romans, Luna, and then Diana. Over time, as the power of the goddess was dismantled, she was given different names for each of the phases of the moon. The moon is the goddess of three forms: Selena in the sky, Artemis on the earth, and Hecate in the lower world, the world above cloak and darkness. The moon's phases reflect these forms. As the new moon, she is the maiden goddess Artemis, always new and virginal, reborn and ready for the hunt. Now, modern pagans often think of Isis as the moon goddess. And it's true, in later periods of her worship, she was indeed associated with the moon. And in fact, that's how she entered the Western esoteric tradition. The Isis moon connected first started when Egypt came under Greek rule in the 3rd century BC, following the conquest by Alexander the Great. To the Greeks, goddesses were the lunar deities. So as Isis made her way into Greek culture and hearts, her new devotees naturally associated her with the moon. Now, as we're running out of time, folks, we're really up against it. I just want to get to one little thing here, and that's why is this all happening now? Here's where it gets really interesting, folks. You see, G. Maxwell, her arrest, has brought into light the sick and twisted behavior of the elites and the ruling class. Their actions are based around the beliefs and structures that precede the histories of most nations. Occultists are creatures of ritual, and everything happening around them is part of a ritual. That's their belief. You see, this whole time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not telling you what my belief is. I am telling you what their belief is, moving them ever closer to their end game. Now, don't believe me? Look at the code for end game. END, E5, N14, D4. That equals 23. Game. G is 7, A is 1, M is 13. We're going to remove that and leave it on its own for its 13 purposes. And E is 5. You take the 7, 1, and the 5, you put them together, you've got 13. You take the whole word, end game. 5, 14, 4, 7, 1, 13, and 5, it equals 49. 4, 9, together equals 13. In conclusion, the numbers tell an important tale. Whatever the end game is, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't seem to be that far off either. The latest 9/11 signal suggests time is drawing near. And with the election just around the corner, we can expect one hell of an October surprise. Most likely before or just after the anniversary of Event 201, which is mid-October. As with everything else we report, all we can suggest is to prepare and be aware. Do your own research, find out, take what we've given you and run with it. Tell me what you think. Send us an email. And until next time, my Bangernauts, I want to thank you all for listening and considering and just being a part of this broadcast. We'll see you next time right here on the John Lebang Show. Signing off for now.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Tune in again next week. Same time, same space,